Here for today's title, Congress is coming after your 401k. America's pension crisis is getting worse. I'm going to be covering several different articles, all dealing with the ongoing pension crisis we're experiencing here in America and what is to come. And so we're only 4 days into the new year, and already we have news about countries deciding to remove themselves or rethink the dollar, or aka dump the dollar. President Erdogan in Turkey tells his citizens in order to help the country out, it'd be in your best interest to go under your pillow, grab the dollars, the euros, and gold. And as you tell them today's title, how the baby boomers will lose their retirement nest egg, I want to share with you a couple thoughts as well as some articles on how the next market correction will be catastrophic for a lot of people.
RTD Midday News Update. Hope everyone's doing well this Tuesday afternoon. And I wanted to check in to share some top headline stories, share my 2 cents on, as well as check in and see what else is going on around the planet, and go from there. So as always, want to be short and brief, get straight to the point, and then tonight we can connect again for a little live stream action and have you guys call in and share your thoughts, as well as elaborate more on these stories, because we are in very interesting times. And of course, as always, whenever stories come from the mainstream news, it's already old news, but it's always entertaining to go back through it and just kind of pick apart some of the things they're saying. And I want to start off with this first article here, this directly from the IMF blog. And it's kind of like, I assume they have to know better, but just to play on words, I'm going to share with you. Actually, the very first line in the description below is the point I'm going to bring out, because they throw out there as if there's some uncertainty as to what's going to result in all this chaos underway. And it's quite obvious. It's just going to be the greatest wealth transfer in human history, and to this next system, whatever they try to usher us into. So that's kind of the end of everything, how it all ends. But, for sake of entertainment, we can play on those words a little bit. But before I dive any further, let me acknowledge a couple people. It says, Megaphone, your mic is a little distorted. Hey, Mike. Okay, let me dial back on my audio just a little bit. All right, so hopefully that is better. Hope I wasn't yelling into the microphone, so let me know if that's better. Okay, so let me check in with the chat real quick. We got Morgan, Horde, we got Damon, we got Tony, we got David, John, we got A Ron, Spirit King, Bates today. Okay, so a couple people here. Appreciate everybody taking time. Audio crackly like megaphone. Interesting. So let me see. Everything should be good on my side. It's funny how it's called Great Virus Recession. Audio crackly like megaphone. Let me know. Let me see. I'll try to dial back on my microphone here. Cut my volume down. Hopefully that helps. Let me know. Anyway, if it's not, we can go from there. Too low now. Sounds good to me. So what I'm going to do is just try something else real quick, and then we'll get into it. All right, so that should be better. And so I'm using a camera microphone. So, okay, let's get right into it. And so this very first article here. And so there's all types of stories to cover. I have, let me see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, maybe 10 or so articles to just touch on the subject matter, go through some of the top of it, get your thoughts on it, share my 2 cents, and go on from there. But the very first article I want to touch on, and this is from IMF blog, and that's what makes it the most interesting, because it's the entity that is the head of all the financial institutions, in a sense, and they are telling us something as if we don't know, and just to shine a little light on how obvious and how to be expected this current meltdown actually is. I've been covering this subject matter for years now, and I think it's going to be received a lot easier by those that are new to the alternative media spin. But just for a point of reference, if you go back to all the countless videos I've done throughout the years, every single person that I've interviewed touched on this current event to some capacity, as far as how a debt-based monetary system, it runs its course, it reaches its peak, and then it implodes on itself. And the things that tend to reflect the most value happen to be what was always considered the most valuable in the first place, which is metals. And so for those that might be new to the channel, I'll put this in a link here, because I think it does a good job of just simply educating people on things that, we never had a chance to learn in school. And so I'll put this in the chat for those that might be interested. And you can go back and check out some of those interviews. But I want to just share with you here, it says a great lockdown
And so the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. And of course, you see people here with masks. And so the institutions are using this current health pandemic as the cover up for what was already underway. And speaking of which, I remember having Michael Pinto on the show, I think it was 2 years ago. And he was saying that what's going on, and he was using indicators 2 years ago that was indicating that it was just a matter of time as all those indicators continue to flash red, that we would see the greatest depression of all time. So, once again, nothing new if you've already been on the alternative media front. But here's a one line here, and there's all types of stats they give about how, it says here, April War Economic Outlook projects global growth in 2020 to fall to -3%. That's been very nice. I think that's been very optimistic from their standpoint. But like always, they're late to the party telling us what's going on. So it's good to say the information they're sharing is going to be understated by another negative whatever. But here's what I want to start off with here. There's a line here that says, this is a crisis like no other, and there is substantial uncertainty about its impact on the people's lives and livelihoods. And I think that's definitely not true, because the substantial uncertainty is not really uncertain if you've been following along and just seeing the demise of our current monetary system based upon all the things that's been going on for the last 100 years under the central banking model system. And so more information here if you guys are interested. They're just throwing out some figures saying here, it says the cumulative output loss over 2020 and 2021 from this current pandemic, as if like this is this is their catalyst that they're going to use, could be around $9 trillion. And once again, $9 trillion for an entire year of a global episode of all economies shutting down. And as Gregory Mannarino mentioned last night, we have no economy. And so $9 trillion, once again, that's a very low ball figure. But there's more information there. I just wanted to use that first line to kind of open up today's little news briefing, because they say it's uncertainty. And I would imagine that you probably all would disagree as well. The uncertainty is quite certain as to what's happening. And then to just share with you some of the certainty of what happens when a debt-based monetary system runs its course. And so now we're witnessing, as all the too big to fail banks are mentioning, that now we're witnessing the debt default tsunami that's coming, with the banks bracing for impact on the fact that there's about to be so many defaults of every debt instrument. And so credit cards will not be repaid, mortgages will not be paid, all the renters and all that stuff is about to unfold starting this month, or it's going to rear its head above ground this month. And so when the banks are bracing for impact, you know that the central banks, which happens to be the Federal Reserve, the leading central bank, has already made preparations to prop up and to make sure that their shareholders will be well liquidated or well liquefied in this next go around. And so we see all that stuff happening now with the fact that they're in charge of lending small business loans. So they're the front runners to it. And there's articles showing that the money's not getting where it should go. So yeah, Rookie, I appreciate that love offering to the channel, my friend. Thank you for being a blessing. And so let's get right into some more articles here. And so as always, nothing new here, just more of the same. But yet, what is let me see, what is the leading indicator of the complete chaos that is underway happens to be reflected right here. And I'll just put this up on the screen, because here is the current gold price as of right now, today, as of almost 3 o'clock, according to this graph here on goldprice.com. And it's at currently the USD in comparison to the physical gold price is 1734. And if you look at this graph, going back to its all-time high, according to this here, was 1781, according to this graph here. So we are, if it hasn't already, probably surpassed. I'm not sure if it went up and came back down. But we are already at the peak of the all-time high in the amount of these instruments here that it takes to redeem in order to get physical.
And of course, every currency around the world has already surpassed their all-time highs by, well beyond what we're currently looking at here now. But an indicator as to how much chaos there is in the current debt-based Ponzi scheme system we're in is an indicator of how many pieces of paper it takes to get some metal in your possession. And once this number officially breaks above the 18, and then it's going to go to 19, and then like everybody I've interviewed before, is that once it touches 2,000 and beyond, there's no going back. And the question is, we've always mentioned before, when we see all-time highs and everything that's real, that would not be very pretty for those that were waiting for that day of being able to cash out, as if it's something that we would be able to do in the midst of all this chaos. But let me get into some more articles. So the very first article here, it says Goldman says downturn will be 4 times worse than the housing crisis, than an unprecedented recovery. And so once again, okay, so we've witnessed an 11-year bull rally or 11-year artificial rally based upon extremely low interest rates and the enticement of continual credit expansion through borrowing, share buybacks, all that stuff like that. And so Goldman is saying it's going to be 4 times worse. So just imagine how bad it was perhaps for you or for those that you know when the initial housing crisis came about. Mass defaults, foreclosures, all that stuff. The majority did not benefit. A small few did. And so if it's going to be 4 times worse, and once again, it's just them being, very modest, I'd imagine, there will not be an unprecedented recovery because we've witnessed the Federal Reserve and all central banks were not able to unload all that debt crap that they, put on their balance sheets to be able to bring a sense of normalcy into the markets with being able to restabilize interest rates and borrowing costs and things like that. So once again, title is very optimistic in the fact that it's going to be 4 times worse, which is very nice in comparison to the fact that this will be a complete reboot and a complete restructuring of the system we're under now, because there will be no recovery from all this stuff as it unfolds. And I think it goes well beyond the length of this current health pandemic, because the fuse has been lit already by the fact that the cash cows, or well, not the cash cows, but the cash cows of our economy happen to be the employment sector, the middle class sector, which is right now majority are no longer working. And how do you recover if there's no one consuming? We're a consumption-based nation, so if people aren't consuming at the level we were before, there can really be no true recovery. So instead of using the word recovery, it might have been better for them to use reboot, because they're going to have to usher in something new to even begin to get people to get back involved in this type of economy here. And of course, they throw all the types of figures. It said U.S. second quarter actively likely dropped 35%, while employment could hit 15%. Yeah. So all these numbers are very user-friendly for the mainstream narrative, but yet just read a little deeper into them. And for those that might be interested, I'll share this via chat, in the chat rather. And let me see here, find this in the chat. And before I move any further, let me actually check in with the chat to see if I'm missing any thoughts or any comments out there. All right, so let me check in with the chat real quick. It says, I see some people say I disagree. Go past 2,000, everyone's 1,000 checks clears. Okay, so here's another little side note on the check situation. So right now, let me actually do this, because I've been paying attention to this, and the economic stimulus plan package or check that's supposed to be coming for those that qualify, is not really intended to be what it's being offered as a way of stimulating, because 1,200 whatever is a slap in the face. It should piss you off more than it would excite you, first of all, but then it's not necessarily for you. And so what I believe it's for, it's designed to bring out of the woodworks the people who are not a part of the financial system already, those that are considered the unbanked, those that have not had to have filed taxes before due to the fact that they're not contributors to the overall workforce. And so that's a good portion of the population. I want to say, I don't know offhand, but I would say 30, 40 million. Or let me actually just look this up, because the reason I say that is the stimulus, as it's being offered, the economic payment relief or whatever, it's a carrot that they're dangling in front of the world as a way of saying that we're going to help protect and look out and, provide some help for those that are in need of relief. But $1,200 can't help anybody do much in this current environment. And so once again, as I mentioned, it's meant to bring out people who are not in the banking system and put them in. Now, the question is, why would they want everyone in the direct deposit banking system structure? And it's because of what was initially offered in the Senate's version of the CARES Act, which was that digital dollar. So all of this stimulus stuff initially offered is a way to get everybody directly in the IRS direct deposit chain, so that when it's time to roll out the next stimulus, whatever, it's going to be offered through a centrally digital ledger, which through the Federal Reserve and the Treasury, they're going to partner up to issue this new currency. This is what this is all about. And so the carrot they're dangling is $1,200. So if you look up Twitter hashtag, I think it's hashtag stimulus deposit or stimulus checks, you got people out there making music videos, people excited, people all gun ho looking. And I think yesterday, as I read an article, it said that more people were looking at their accounts than ever before, looking to see if they got stimulated. And I'm thinking, like, man, if people only knew that it was a carrot that was dangled for you to actually fill out a one-page form. And so as of this Friday, they have a new link on the IRS website called, was it Make My Payment or Where's My Payment or something like that. Some three-word phrase that will allow people to go on there and just fill out in one simple format, a way to put yourself in their system. And so the goal in getting in the system is to get every U.S. citizen, kind of like this, everybody's been bombarded with the U.S. Census 2020 information now. So you factor in the U.S. Census 2020 to get an idea of the total population and all that stuff they want to know. Then you put everybody in a direct payment system, makes it easier to usher everyone into that central digital ledger, which is what they want to do. And then I'll get into that further down the line. But yet it has to do with the data tracking and all that stuff like that, which is a part of the entrapment, which you don't really want to be a part of. But, they got to get people out, and in the system somehow. So why not give a dang on a carrot? But anyway, let me get back to this next article here. And no, actually, I'll skip that. All right, so here's another one. Let me grab this one here. All right, so once again, this is just a little cover-up information. It says JP Morgan says unemployment could hit 20% and borrower defaults could get meaningfully worse. And so you see the words here. It's like, employment could hit 20%. Common sense tells you if this thing is prolonged, which I believe the powers that be wants it to be, then unemployment could be 50%, 60%, definitely, if not more, because it's predominantly service sector employees that will not be allowed to go back to work due to the health scare of things. And then borrower defaults, it says, could get meaningfully worse. No, it's guaranteed to get meaningfully worse, because unemployment and or stimulus will not be enough to provide complete wholeness of households that's already overly indebted in the first place. More people got more toys that they're about to lose right now, therefore expanding the need for people to actually just make a choice as to what will they pay. Will they pay their mortgage? Will they buy food and car perhaps? And then everything else has to go. So once again, these numbers here, it says the bank said early Tuesday that it added a whopping $6.8 billion to reserves for loan losses in the quarter, meaning that it expects a surge in defaults across the sprawling retail commercial lending operation. So you have the two big default banks now reaching out and grabbing a little bit more cushion or a little wiggle room to cover some of the losses that's about to take place. At the same time, last month on March 26th, the two big default banks as well as the regional banks were allowed to remove the buffers for deposits restrictions on their depositors' capital. So that's why that was let loose. On 26th of March last month, they removed any restrictions on the amount of capital needed for depositors' sake. And so they wanted to free up for this current event here. But once again, they're going to find out that it's not going to be enough. $6.8 billion, is not a lot when you have trillions upon trillions of all types of funny stuff happening behind the scenes. And so just as a little something to consider as they try to make things sound like it's could be manageable. But yet, once again, we all know that it's not. All right, so let me go to the next one here. More signs of what's really going on. It says debt levels expected to sharply increase in 2020. Like, IMF, come on now. Like, clearly, yeah, it's the type of stuff that really makes me mad because these are the chief economists, Gita, whatever, PhD, definitely Ivy League, probably, trained. And if this is the best they can give the people, it makes them look stupid, as if like people, really don't know that the U.S. already is. I think it says there's an article saying that $3.8 trillion deficit just this year alone, and that's just within the last 60 days. So we still got 8 more months of debt that's coming. So, I thought this was just entertaining, so I thought I would just read this. Next one here. Fed to launch commercial paper liquidity backstop Tuesday. So once again, between backstops, lending windows, backdoor operations, as Gregory Manarino mentioned last night, there's 2 balance sheets. There's what we're being told and there's what we're not being told. There's no way of knowing what's really going on inside the Federal Reserve buildings, any of the 12. But yet we see them trying to buy up everything. And so once again, it says they will purchase higher rated 3-month unsecured asset-backed paper from eligible bank, corporations, special purpose entities, multiple municipal use issuers. So they're going to be buying anything that stands the risk of being defaulted on. The purchaser of first and last and the only resort will be buying up everything, which, yeah, so, just more signs of desperation of what the powers must do in order to keep the narrative going that everything is fine and no need to worry. Just continue to do what you do. Now, on another note, this is off the subject matter, but it's relevant for the subject. So there's so many financial institutions now which have suspended redemptions, which means that people who have put their funds in the care of some type of party or something that's supposed to be working and growing your capital, more than likely you're one of the individuals that you're not able to withdraw now. And so Fundrise, it's a ERIT, electronic real estate investment, whatever. I'm on their little mailing list, and so as a prospective investor, and they basically said that, sorry, we're not accepting any more funds, and you can't withdraw yours either. And then they try to settle with like, everything's fine, we're more than qualified, we're more than liquid, everything's fine, there's no need to, but just as a precautionary measures, we want to protect you. So, yeah, so I'd imagine there's people out there who have been trapped in the system. I did reports last summer shining some light on what was happening in the EU as the EU was imploding first last year, about how people were trapped in. So, more power to those individuals that might be trapped in. Hopefully, you've been able to get enough of your disposable capital into metals, and you'll counterbalance some of those losses more than likely. And also, next one here. Let me get to this next article here. And then I'm going to dial back because we can talk about more of this later tonight. But yet, hedge fund managers are claiming bailouts at small businesses. So, short article here, but it talks about how most hedge fund firms are very small in nature. They maybe have 20, 30, 40 on staff. They're not really big to where they would actually need or qualify for a bailout, apart from the fact that this article presents the fact that a lot of the hedge fund managers prefer to keep the profits within, to where they don't mind taking on this debt to pay their 20 or 30 or 50 roster staff, because it helps them and their profits. And so I thought this was interesting that hedge fund managers will probably be on the front line of the too big to fail banks, making sure that they're going to be able to qualify for the billions upon billions that they may need. Even in actuality, they're part of the scheme in the first place. So bail them out. Yeah, to the people's detriment, that's for sure. All right, so let me share this here, and then I will dial back on this last one here. Let me find this ideal one to end on. Okay, so here's another idea of what's really happening outside of the U.S. that we're not hearing about. It says Moscow apartment sales surge as Russians protect against the ruble's slide. And so, once again, we're all in the same boat.
all economies are being tested because of the end of the debt-based system covered up with the global health pandemic. And so currencies right now are becoming weaponized instruments of financial destruction, to where all central banks now have to respond in some type of favorable way for their economies, but very unfavorable for savers and holders of debt notes. And so the ruble right now, without even looking at it, but I can guarantee you one thing: the ruble in gold terms is probably not. Let me see. Let me find a Russian ruble. Ruble. Here we go. So here's the Russian ruble right now. So more signs of the times. So the paper instrument and the digital ruble is right now have already reached all-time highs, well outside of what had happened in the earlier part of this decade. So as of right now, it takes 126,523.31 rubles to get 1 ounce. And that's going to continue to go up because the paper purchasing power will go down. So I thought I would share that article there, because it might not be as readily available for people to go out and physically get gold, but yet people are saying, hey, let me go out and get an apartment. Let me find a way to get rid of this paper and get something tangible. And so that's what's happening around the world. So it's a mad scramble for everybody to get out of digits and paper from this old system that's coming apart and to get in something physical. And so expect more stories, more news like this, because once again, it's more so to keep you guys informed. But as always, if you're a part of the alternative media realm, you've been aware of this for quite some time, and it's nothing new to you. And so, you are already positioned better than the average. So once again, wanted to check in real quick, share my thoughts, and let me check in with the chat real quickly. But yet, come back this evening. We're going to have a little open discussion. I'll open up the phone lines, and I'd like to hear from you guys directly. And we'll go from there. So I said, I have heard real Russian ruble gold coin. And so let me see. No actual questions or thoughts, nothing highlighted towards me. So with that being the case, I hope this was informative, keeping you up to speed as to what's going on as things unfold. And once again, once the IMF says we're experiencing the worst time since the Great Depression, that lets us know that we're well past that point of actually being in a recession, as they want to make us believe we're in. We're already past the greatest point of no return. And so that's it. That is what it is. So as always, for those that are interested, I want to make sure I bring to your attention an opportunity, because there was some issues on the logistical side of things when it comes to the RTD coins, but I've been reassured that there is silver supply available to continue to issue the coins. So for those that would like to be able to get something physical in a timely manner, there is opportunities to get your hands on something physical. So you can just go to rethinkingthedollar.com/store, get the 1 ounce or the 5 ounce, and it's a way of getting physical. Because as always, if you've been a part of the community, I've encouraged people to get your weight up along the way. That's the best way to hedge against a crumbling system, is to opt out. You opt out by going back into time, back into what's real and tangible, something you can feel and hold in your hands. But that being the case, that is all she wrote. Let me acknowledge this love offering here from Mr. Wealthy Man. I appreciate that love offering, my friend. Tyler D says, if you cannot find gold due to bullion dealers sold out, what would you get next? Tyler D, my personal opinion, I believe that as of right now, there's a scramble to exit a burning building. So my analogy, if the house is burning down, the front door is the obvious exit point if you can get out, which will be metals. The windows is the second best places to get out if you can get to one. That's all types of alternative things. You got real estate, you got art, all the things that, anything that's of value that can be bartered off will be the windows, because the windows are plentiful. There's a lot to choose from. And then the back door, if you can make it to the back door, happen to be the speculative cryptocurrency sector for those that are educated and aware of projects that might be offering value during this time and beyond. So front doors are metals, windows are all the alternatives, and the back door, get you some crypto if that's something of interest to you. So that's my little 2 cents there. Appreciate the question, Tyler. But I'm going to stop right now before I keep ranting. I'm going to save some for tonight. Come back this evening. Let's talk again. Invite a friend, and let's hang out. Other than that, be blessed. And I'm going to leave you with this light right here. Enjoy your day.
Hey there. Sorry for
this interruption, but I wanted to bring something to your attention. If you've been enjoying this live stream, why don't you partner with me and be a support to the channel via Patreon membership for just a minimum of $5 a month. All you have to do is scroll down beneath this video here, click the Patreon link, then consider donating as little as $5 a month towards the channel. A little bit of crumbs can go a long way, and I appreciate your support. Now, let's get back to this live stream. Hey there, hope all is well. Back at you today with some more RTD News updates. And as you can tell from today's title, Congress is coming after your 401k. America